We are living through one of the most disturbing celebrity incidents of the decade, and it happened just days ago. On a quiet Sunday afternoon in March 2026, a woman armed with an AR-15 style rifle drove up to Rihanna's Beverly Hills mansion and unleashed a barrage of gunfire. Rihanna was inside. A$AP Rocky was inside. Their 3 children, the youngest just 5 months old, were inside. And now the family of the accused shooter has finally started talking. What they are revealing is sending shockwaves through the internet, because their explanation opens the door to a conversation that most people are not ready to have. When you understand the full picture, when you trace the digital breadcrumbs this woman left behind, when you realize how many systems failed to stop this before it happened, you begin to see that this is far bigger than one woman with a gun. This is about the machinery of obsession. About a mental health infrastructure that abandons people until they become monsters. About what happens when admiration curdles into something unrecognizable. Now, before we go deeper, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, because this breakdown is going to challenge a lot of people. The fandoms are already at war in the comments. The family defenders are mobilizing. But someone needs to lay out the full timeline, the contradictions, the unanswered questions that the mainstream coverage keeps glossing over. When you see everything I have put together, you will understand why this story is only getting started. Let us begin. Here is what happened. On Sunday, March 8, 2026, at approximately 1:15 in the afternoon, a 35-year-old woman from Orlando, Florida named Ivanna Ortiz allegedly pulled up to Rihanna's Beverly Crest residence in a white Tesla Model 3 and opened fire with a semi-automatic AR-15 style rifle. Multiple rounds were fired. At least 10 shots echoed through the canyon, according to dispatch audio reviewed by multiple news outlets. The bullets struck the front gate, the exterior walls, an Airstream trailer parked on the property, a vehicle out front, and even a neighboring home. Rihanna and A$AP Rocky were together inside that Airstream at the time. Their 3 children, RZA who is 3, Riot Rose who is 2, and baby Rocky who is just 5 months old, were on the property along with Rihanna's mother, a talent agent, and other staff. 9 people total were on that property when the gunfire began. A source told the Los Angeles Times the couple easily could have been hit. Think about that for a moment. One of the most recognizable women on the planet and the father of her children were sitting inside a trailer that was directly struck by rifle fire, with an infant and 2 toddlers nearby. After firing, Ortiz fled south on Coldwater Canyon Drive. An LAPD helicopter tracked her white Tesla to a shopping center parking garage in Sherman Oaks, roughly 8 miles away. Patrol units pulled her over and took her into custody approximately 30 minutes after the initial 911 call. Inside the vehicle, officers recovered the AR-15 style rifle, ammunition, and a blonde wig. She was booked on suspicion of attempted murder. Bail was initially set at over $10 million. By Tuesday, the Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman formally announced charges. 14 felony counts. 1 count of attempted murder targeting Rihanna specifically. 10 counts of assault with a semi-automatic firearm, 1 for each person who was on the property and in the adjacent home. 3 counts of shooting at an inhabited dwelling or camper, covering Rihanna's house, the Airstream, and the neighbor's residence. If convicted on all counts, Ortiz faces life in prison. At her initial court appearance, Deputy Public Defender Jamarcus Bradford entered a not guilty plea on her behalf, then withdrew it and postponed the arraignment until March 25th. Ortiz appeared in blue jail clothing with her blonde hair in braids, communicating with her attorney through a glass divider. A judge issued a protective order requiring Ortiz to stay away from Robin Rihanna Fenty and Rakeem Mayers, their legal names, as well as their home. She was barred from possessing any firearms or ammunition. Meanwhile, Rihanna was not waiting around. By Monday, suitcases were being loaded into vehicles outside the mansion. By Tuesday, Rihanna was photographed driving to a private section of Van Nuys Airport and boarding a jet out of Los Angeles. She is gone. Her sense of security shattered. And now, as the legal process unfolds, a different kind of story has begun emerging from the people who knew Ivanna Ortiz before she became a household name for all the wrong reasons. her family, her ex-husband's attorney, people from her past. And what they are describing paints a picture that is as heartbreaking as it is horrifying. To understand what happened Sunday, you have to understand who Ivanna Ortiz was before this. According to Florida state records, Ortiz had been a licensed speech pathologist for more than a decade. She had a career. She had education. She had a child. But somewhere along the way, things started to unravel. Hal Rohn, the attorney representing Ortiz's ex-husband Jed Nico Valdez Sengalang, spoke to TMZ and painted a deeply unsettling portrait. He described Ortiz as articulate and very believable, but added that she also does bizarre things. That duality is important, because it explains how someone can appear functional on the surface while deteriorating underneath. Rohn confirmed that prior to 2023, Ortiz had been involuntarily committed under Florida's Baker Act, the state law that allows for up to 72-hour psychiatric holds. During sworn testimony in a custody proceeding, Ortiz herself acknowledged that she had been Baker acted, though she claimed it was based on false accusations. The judge presiding over that custody case was not convinced. Court documents reveal that a Florida judge awarded Ortiz's ex-husband full physical custody of their child in April 2024. The order did not just limit contact. It terminated it entirely. No in-person visits. No phone calls. No video chats. No text messages. No communication of any kind through any third party. Total severance. That level of restriction from a family court is extraordinary. Judges do not strip a parent of all contact lightly. The ruling specifically cited concerning testimony about Ortiz's mental health and noted fears that she might not return the child to the father. So this was a woman who had already been flagged by the courts, already been involuntarily held in a psychiatric facility, already had her parental rights effectively eliminated. And yet somehow, she was still able to acquire an AR-15 style weapon, drive across the country from Florida to California, and fire multiple rounds at one of the most famous homes in America. Every single system that was supposed to prevent something like this failed. Now let us talk about the digital trail, because this is where it gets truly chilling. Ivanna Ortiz did not hide her fixation on Rihanna. She broadcast it. On February 23rd, roughly 2 weeks before the shooting, Ortiz posted a message on Facebook directly addressing the singer. In it, she wrote words to the effect of, "Are you there? Say something to me directly instead of sneaking around like you talking to me where I am not at." Read that again. She believed Rihanna was communicating about her, talking about her behind her back, aware of her existence in some meaningful personal way. That is textbook delusional parasocial thinking. The belief that a celebrity you have never met is personally involved in your life, actively engaging with you, deliberately withholding contact from you. But it did not stop there. In videos posted online in recent months, Ortiz mentioned Rihanna's death. In one clip reported by Newsweek, she said something along the lines of, "Listen Rihanna, when you die, God is taking me to my future." She called the singer a witch. She framed the situation in explicitly spiritual and religious terms. Divine warfare. Holy mandate. God speaking directly to her about her mission. Her social media presence was saturated with religious content. Prayer journals. Ministry videos. Biblical references. And woven through all of it, this fixation on Rihanna as some kind of spiritual enemy. She did not just target Rihanna either. Ortiz also posted videos addressing Cardi B, speaking to herself in a mirror about being the cutest and telling Cardi she could not compete with her. She filed a lawsuit against Billie Eilish over a concert in October 2025, claiming the show was causing her immediate and irreparable harm. This was not a singular obsession. This was a pattern of delusional engagement with multiple public figures, with Rihanna at the center. And here's what disturbs me most. Her YouTube channel reportedly featured these kinds of videos. Her Facebook was public. Her posts were visible to anyone who looked. And according to CBS, the LAPD found a series of posts on her social media mentioning Rihanna. The warning signs were out in the open. Nobody acted on them. Now a woman claiming to be Ortiz's cousin has posted statements on social media, and what she is saying has ignited a fierce debate. According to this family member, Ortiz was involved in a serious car accident, and after that accident, her mental health was never the same. The family recognized the decline. They say they tried to intervene. They say they attempted to get her help. This claim actually has some corroboration. An attorney named Aaron Williams confirmed to Newsweek that his firm, the Berman Law Group, represents Ortiz in a pending personal injury claim related to a car crash that occurred in Orlando on March 6, 2024. According to court filings, another driver struck Ortiz while operating a passenger shuttle bus, causing severe injuries. So the car accident is real. The injuries were apparently significant enough to warrant legal action. And the family's argument is essentially this: the accident changed her. Her mental health deteriorated. They knew. They tried. But the system gave them no tools to stop what was coming. There is a version of this story where that explanation generates pure sympathy. Traumatic brain injuries are well documented as catalysts for personality changes, impaired impulse control, paranoid thinking, and delusional behavior. If Ortiz suffered a head injury in that crash, it could genuinely explain the escalation. But here's where the timeline gets uncomfortable. Ortiz was Baker acted before 2023. The car accident happened in March 2024. Her custody was stripped in April 2024. She had prior arrests, including a 2023 arrest on suspicion of domestic violence and battery. That means the mental health deterioration predates the car accident. The delusions were already there. The instability was already documented. The courts had already intervened. So while the car accident may have made things worse, it was not the origin point. And that distinction matters, because it changes the question from could anyone have predicted this to why did so many people see the warning signs and still fail to prevent it. The cousin's statements, while clearly coming from a place of genuine grief and confusion, contain contradictions that have not gone unnoticed. Claiming the family did everything they could while simultaneously describing a woman who was deteriorating openly, posting threatening content online, and losing custody of her child raises an obvious question. If you knew she was this far gone, what specifically did you do? Did you contact law enforcement about the social media posts? Did you try to limit her access to weapons? Did you alert anyone that she had fixated on a specific public figure? These are not accusations. They are necessary questions. Because if we are going to have an honest conversation about preventing the next incident, we cannot skip over the gaps in accountability. Let us zoom out and talk about the broader phenomenon, because Ivanna Ortiz is not an anomaly. She is a symptom. The word "stan" entered the cultural vocabulary through Eminem's 2000 track of the same name. In that song, a fan becomes so consumed by his parasocial attachment to the rapper that he murders his pregnant girlfriend and drives them both off a bridge. It was deliberately horrifying. It was meant as a warning. 2 decades later, the internet adopted that word as a term of endearment. People now wear the label proudly. They organize themselves into armies named after their favorite artists. They spend their days defending celebrities in comment sections, attacking critics, and constructing elaborate mythologies about people they have never spoken to. Most of the time, this is benign. Annoying, perhaps, but harmless. But occasionally, the line between dedication and delusion dissolves. And what happened at Rihanna's home is the most extreme possible manifestation of that dissolution. Ortiz did not just follow Rihanna's career from a respectful distance. She built an entire internal narrative in which Rihanna was an active participant in her life. She believed Rihanna was talking about her. She believed Rihanna was a spiritual threat. She believed that confronting Rihanna was divinely mandated. In clinical terms, this is erotomanic delusion or persecutory delusion, conditions where the sufferer believes a public figure is either in love with them or actively conspiring against them. It is a recognized psychiatric condition that has been documented in stalking cases for over a century. And the terrifying truth is that no security system, no gate, no camera, no bodyguard can fully protect against someone in the grip of this kind of psychosis. You can reduce the risk. You can harden the target. But you cannot eliminate the threat entirely. Because the threat originates in a mind that has lost contact with shared reality. And social media has made that kind of detachment exponentially easier. Platforms reward engagement. They amplify intensity. They create feedback loops where extreme devotion is celebrated and moderate interest is invisible. They algorithmically funnel people deeper into whatever fixation they already have. For someone already teetering on the edge, that algorithmic pressure can be the thing that pushes them over. Now here's something that almost nobody is discussing but that I think deserves attention. Ortiz had a history of domestic violence arrests. She had been Baker acted. She had lost custody of her child in a ruling that specifically cited mental health concerns and fear of flight. Under federal law, certain categories of people are prohibited from purchasing or possessing firearms. This includes individuals who have been adjudicated as a mental defective or committed to a mental institution. A Baker Act hold in Florida can potentially qualify as a commitment, depending on the circumstances. And a domestic violence conviction can also be a disqualifying factor under federal firearms law. So the question becomes, how did Ivanna Ortiz obtain an AR-15 style rifle? Did she buy it legally in Florida? If so, did the background check system fail to flag her psychiatric history and criminal record? Did she acquire it through a private sale that bypassed background checks entirely? Did someone give it to her or purchase it on her behalf? These are not rhetorical questions. These are investigative questions that law enforcement should be actively pursuing and that the public deserves answers to. Because if someone with Ortiz's documented history can still walk into a store and walk out with a semi-automatic rifle, then the background check system is not doing what it is supposed to do. And if she obtained the weapon through a loophole, then that loophole needs to be closed before the next Ivanna Ortiz falls through it. The police chief noted that the rifle and ammunition were found in her car. What they have not yet disclosed is how she obtained the weapon, how long she had it, or whether she had any training. And given the fact that she drove from Florida to California with this weapon, that means she potentially transported it across state lines, which could add federal charges to what she already faces. There are layers to this case that are still being peeled back. And the deeper investigators go, the more uncomfortable the findings are likely to be. We need to talk about Rihanna for a moment, because in the storm of analysis around Ortiz's mental state and the family's response, it is dangerously easy to forget who the victim is. Robin Rihanna Fenty is a 9-time Grammy winner with 14 #1 hits. She built Fenty Beauty into a billion-dollar empire. She transformed the fashion and cosmetics industries. And over the past few years, she stepped back from the relentless pace of global stardom to focus on her family. She was just trying to live. She was in a trailer on her own property, spending time with the father of her children, while their kids were nearby. And someone drove up and started firing a military-style rifle at her home in broad daylight. A source close to Rihanna told People magazine that she is freaking out. That she heard the shots but was initially confused about what was happening. That she does not understand why anyone would target her family. And that confusion is the cruelest part. Because Rihanna did nothing to Ivanna Ortiz. She never met her. Never wronged her. Never even knew she existed. In Ortiz's mind, there was an entire relationship, an entire narrative of conflict and betrayal that simply did not exist in reality. Rihanna is now a victim of someone else's hallucination. And the practical consequences are severe. She has left her home. She has left the city. Her security will need to be completely restructured. Her children's routines will be disrupted. Her sense of safety, a sense that money and fame and walls and cameras were supposed to guarantee, has been annihilated. This is not the first time Rihanna has dealt with a security breach. In 2018, a man broke into another home she owned in the Hollywood Hills and spent 12 hours inside before being discovered. He was eventually convicted of stalking and vandalism. But a man sneaking into an empty house is a fundamentally different threat than a woman firing a rifle in broad daylight at a house full of people. The escalation is stark, and it speaks to a broader trend of increasing boldness among those who target public figures. The mental health system conversation is unavoidable here, and the family is right that it deserves scrutiny. But it also deserves honesty. Florida's Baker Act allows for involuntary psychiatric evaluation and stabilization. It lasts up to 72 hours. After that, unless a person is deemed to still present in imminent danger, they are released. There is often minimal follow-up. The system is designed for acute crisis intervention, not long-term treatment. And this is a real problem. Not just in Florida, but nationwide. The gap between this person is having a psychiatric emergency and this person is receiving sustained, meaningful treatment is enormous. Resources are scarce. Beds are limited. Insurance coverage for intensive psychiatric care is inadequate. And once someone is stabilized enough to no longer meet the legal threshold for involuntary commitment, they are largely on their own. This is what the family is pointing to when they say the system failed. And they are not entirely wrong. But here's what frustrates me about the way this conversation typically unfolds. The broken system becomes a blanket excuse that absolves every individual actor of responsibility. The family says they tried, but the system would not let them do more. The hospitals say they followed protocol. The courts say they ruled based on the evidence before them. Law enforcement says they cannot act on social media posts alone. Everyone followed their narrow script. And a woman with a documented psychiatric history, a history of violence, a fixation on a public figure, and access to a semi-automatic weapon still managed to drive across the country and fire multiple rounds at a home full of children. The system is broken. That is true. But systems are made of people. And at multiple junctures, people had information that, if shared or acted upon differently, might have changed the outcome. I am not interested in assigning blame to any one person or institution. I am interested in understanding the cascade of failures so that the conversation moves beyond the system is broken and toward here is specifically how we fix it. Because shrugging and saying the system failed is not an answer. It is a surrender. There is another layer to this that the cousin's statement inadvertently illuminated, and it has to do with the response from Rihanna's fan base. The Navy, as Rihanna's fans call themselves, mobilized immediately after the shooting. And while most of that response was rooted in genuine concern and love for the artist, some of it veered into territory that mirrors the very psychology that drove this attack in the first place. Death threats directed at Ortiz's family members. Doxing of relatives who had no involvement whatsoever. Harassment campaigns targeting anyone associated with the accused shooter. And the family member made a pointed observation about this. She essentially said that the people attacking her family online are engaging in the same behavior pattern as Ortiz, just without the weapon. That is a provocative claim. But it is also not entirely without merit. The fundamental mechanism is identical. A person develops such an intense emotional bond with a celebrity they have never met that they feel personally wounded by anything that threatens that celebrity. They feel entitled to take action in defense of that imaginary relationship. They believe their emotional investment grants them moral authority. Ortiz believed her imaginary grievance with Rihanna justified violence. Fans believe their imaginary closeness with Rihanna justifies harassment of Ortiz's family. The actions are different in scale and consequence. Nobody is equating sending a death threat on Instagram with firing a rifle at someone's home. But the psychological architecture is the same. And until we reckon with that, until we acknowledge that the culture of parasocial intensity that we celebrate is the same culture that produces stalkers and attackers at its extremes, we are going to keep having this conversation after every tragedy. We have normalized the idea that strangers are entitled to intense emotional relationships with celebrities. We have gamified devotion. We have built entire economies around obsessive fandom. And then we act shocked when that obsession occasionally turns lethal. So where does this go from here? The immediate legal trajectory is clear. Ortiz faces 14 felony counts and a potential life sentence. Her arraignment is scheduled for March 25th. The prosecution, led by Alexander Bott, the same deputy DA who convicted Tory Lanez for shooting Megan Thee Stallion, appears to be treating this as a premeditated attempt on Rihanna's life. The inclusion of the blonde wig found in the vehicle, combined with the social media posts dating back weeks, gives prosecutors a strong foundation for arguing premeditation. This was not a spontaneous psychotic episode. This was planned. Ortiz deactivated or scrubbed some of her social media accounts. She acquired a weapon. She drove from Florida to California. She located the property. She pulled up and fired. Every step of that sequence involves planning and intentionality. And while her mental state will almost certainly be central to the defense strategy, planning and delusion are not mutually exclusive. A person can be profoundly mentally ill and still capable of deliberate, premeditated action in service of their delusion. Beyond the courtroom, the ripple effects are already reshaping how the entertainment industry thinks about security. District Attorney Hochman tried to reassure the public at his press conference, saying that LA-based celebrities should not be additionally worried because of the rapid police response. But that rings hollow. The response was impressive, with an arrest within 30 minutes. But the shooting still happened. The bullets still hit the house. The family was still inside. Response time means nothing if prevention fails. And across Hollywood, that reality is sinking in. Security consultants are being retained. Protocols are being rewritten. The distance between public figures and the public is about to grow wider, which creates its own tragic irony. The more celebrities retreat behind barriers, the more mysterious and unattainable they become, which feeds the very fantasy cycle that produces obsessed individuals in the first place. It is a loop with no clean exit. The longer-term conversation has to center on two things: detection and intervention. On the detection side, Ortiz was posting openly about Rihanna for weeks before the attack. She was making videos. She was filing bizarre lawsuits. She had a documented psychiatric history. She had a criminal record including domestic violence. Every piece of information that would have painted a picture of an escalating threat existed somewhere in a database, on a social media platform, in a court filing, in a medical record. But none of those systems talk to each other. The psychiatric facility that Baker acted her did not flag her to any firearms registry. The family court that stripped her custody did not alert the FBI's background check system. The social media platforms hosting her threatening posts did not report them to law enforcement. The personal injury attorney handling her car crash case had no obligation to report concerning behavior to anyone. Each silo held a piece of the puzzle. Nobody assembled the full picture. And this is not a technology problem. The technology to cross-reference this information exists. It is a policy problem and a political problem. The will to build integrated threat detection systems that balance civil liberties with public safety simply does not exist at scale in this country. On the intervention side, even if someone had assembled the full picture, the question remains, what could they have done? Under current law, posting threatening social media content about a celebrity, while alarming, does not always meet the threshold for arrest or involuntary commitment. There is a legal gray zone between this person is saying disturbing things and this person is in imminent danger, and Ortiz apparently lived in that gray zone for months. Closing that gap requires legislative action. It requires rethinking what constitutes an imminent threat in the age of social media. It requires funding for psychiatric intervention teams that can respond to escalating online behavior before it becomes physical violence. None of that is easy. All of it is necessary. Because the alternative is what we saw on Sunday. A woman with a rifle, a family in a trailer, and 14 bullets slamming into a home where children sleep. That is not acceptable. And simply locking Ortiz away for decades, while satisfying in the short term, does not address the conditions that created her. It does not fix the mental health system. It does not close the firearms loopholes. It does not build better detection systems. It does not change the culture of parasocial obsession. It just warehouses the symptom while the disease continues to spread. So I want to hear from you. Do you believe the family did everything in their power, or are they trying to rewrite history after the fact? Does Ortiz's documented mental health history change how you view her culpability, or does the evidence of planning and premeditation override the sympathy? What should happen to her? Prison? A psychiatric facility? Some combination? And the bigger question: what do we actually do about this? About the intersection of untreated mental illness, accessible weapons, algorithmic radicalization, and parasocial culture that keeps producing these outcomes? Is this a wake-up call, or is this just another news cycle that will fade in 2 weeks until it happens again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear different perspectives on this, because there are no simple answers. This case sits at the intersection of mental health, gun policy, internet culture, celebrity safety, and criminal justice, and reasonable people are going to disagree about where to place the weight. If you made it all the way through this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe. It makes a bigger difference than you might think, especially on content like this where I am trying to go deeper than the surface level coverage. I appreciate every single one of you who engages thoughtfully with these difficult topics. The ability to hold complexity, to feel empathy for the mentally ill while still demanding accountability, to recognize systemic failures without excusing individual choices, that takes intellectual maturity. And this audience has it. Coming up next, we are going to trace the full history of fan violence against public figures. From the murder of Selena Quintanilla by the president of her own fan club, to the assassination of John Lennon, to the killing of Christina Grimmie after a concert, to the repeated stalking incidents targeting Taylor Swift and Sandra Bullock. There is a pattern here that spans decades and crosses every genre of fame. We are going to connect every thread and ask the hardest question of all: is this simply the price of celebrity, or is it a solvable problem that we have chosen not to solve? Check out the next video when it drops. Thank you for watching. I will see you there.